Let's go with the second part of the simple present tense. Now we'll be talking about the interrogative form. So there are two types of questions. The first type is called a yes-no question. Yes-no question simply because they can be answered by yes, by no, then you replace your subject by the corresponding pronoun, and then you use the correct auxiliary. You have to know that some yes-no questions can be placed at the end of a sentence, and they're called tag questions, but we'll come back with this a little later. Now, let's go in details for the yes-no questions. Here's the word order. Now we have to place the auxiliary first. In the simple present, we remember that there are two choices. You either use do or does depending on the subject. The subject and the auxiliary must agree. Then I will use my main verb in the infinitive form and, if needed, an object. If I want to answer a yes-no question, I need to change the subject for the pronoun. And so if it's affirmative, I say yes, I use the pronoun, and then the correct auxiliary, the one that agrees with my pronoun. And if the answer is negative, no, you use your pronoun once again, the correct auxiliary plus not, because your answer is negative. Let's look at two examples. The first example is in the third person singular, because my subject is Julie. Julie, third person singular, so I chose my auxiliary does. Then, as you can see, there's no S at the end of my verb. I keep it in the infinitive form because my auxiliary takes the S. And then all of this part here is my object. Then I answer yes or no. I need to change my subject for the pronoun she, and then I have to use the corresponding auxiliary, the one that agrees with my pronoun. If it's negative, I add not. Let's look at the second example. In the second example, here is my subject. So I am not working with the third person singular because this subject here could be replaced by they. Third person plural. So I have to choose the corresponding auxiliary, write it first, then my subject, and here is my verb in the infinitive form, and then the object. To answer, I use exactly the same pattern, yes or no, the subject, the auxiliary that agrees with my subject, and then not for the negative form. Earlier, we talked about tag questions. What we said is that a tag question is a short question that is placed at the end of a statement. Here, what is important to remember is this rule. If the statement is affirmative, then the tag is negative. But if the statement is negative, the tag is affirmative. So it's always the opposite. To form a tag question, you simply write your sentence. Julie likes chocolate. So in the third person singular, you make your agreements as usual. Then to add the tag, you add a comma, And then you have to use your auxiliary. So my verb is affirmative. It means affirmative, so it means the tag is negative. So here is the auxiliary that I will have to use. Third person singular, negative form. Then to answer, you use exactly the same pattern that we just reviewed. So yes or no, the pronoun, and then the corresponding auxiliary. Here it goes. For the second example, I used a negative sentence. So here it's negative. So as we just said, it's the opposite. So the tag is affirmative. So I'm going to use one of the two auxiliaries depending on my subject. And then I answer yes or no, the pronoun, and then the auxiliary. Let's go with the second type of question. This is called information questions, or some people may call it WH questions, simply because many question words start with WH. These questions require a complete sentence as an answer. Here's the word order for information questions. As you can see, the only difference between yes/no questions and information questions is this, the question word. You need to add a question word before you continue the pattern with the auxiliary, the subject. Remember, the subject and the auxiliary must agree. And then my verb is always in the infinitive form, and then, if necessary, the object. In the example, I used you, so it's not the third person singular, that's why my auxiliary is do. And the question word here is where. Now, what's important is to remember what is the information you seek with this question word. So you remember that it means you're looking for a place. So it's going to be part of your answer. This is my answer. Where do you practice baseball? To answer, I said I need a complete answer. So subject, verb, and then object, and here's my answer. In the second example, I use the pronoun she to remind you that you always need to make your agreement with your auxiliary. My verb is still in the infinitive form. What time is the information I'm looking for? And here's my object. So what time does she practice baseball on Mondays? So here's my answer. My answer is this. I'm looking for a time. What time? At 7. But I need a complete sentence. So I use my pronoun again. I make my agreement in the third person singular with my verb, and then I answer my question. Talking about question words, it's important to go for a little review of the question words. So here are the main ones. You have more extended lists in your grammar. So what is used to get general information about many different things. Where is used to look for a place. When, because you're looking for a date. You will use what time to get an hour. But if you want to have a date, it's preferable to use when. Why? I'm looking for a reason. Which or which one? I'm looking for a choice. Who? a person, whose, a belonging. I want to know whose rule is this, for example. So I'm looking for a person. And then you can have your question word what and add different kinds of adjectives to get a more specific answer. Finally, let's take a look at the other question words, those that don't start with WH. How is looking for a way to do something, a manner. How many will be used for quantities, things that you can count only. How much, same thing, is used for quantity, but this time things that you cannot count. How old, looking for the age of someone. And then you can use your how and add an adjective such as tall, small, big, short, etc., or an adverb like far, long, often, to get a more specific answer once again. And we're done for the simple present tense.